It's the grandson of Right Thought. Welcome to the School of Marvelous Light. So if you've all been paying attention lately, you've noticed that a lot of the things that I've been saying has been directed at the fulfilling of the law. You must be converted to understand, also to teach the things that I teach. You have to be converted, as Paul was, you see. Paul had great zeal. He is what you would call a zealot, or as he even said, a Jew of the Jews. So the Jews have zeal for God, but not after knowledge. Paul said that. So do you see? He bears witness that the men that are Jews of his day, they have a zeal after God, but it's misdirected. And so for one to understand the misdirection, he must be converted. That's the only way Paul understood it. And see, what did Yahushua say to Paul when Paul was converted? Why persecutest thou me? Now, if Paul was a Jew of the Jews, what was Paul going around doing? Persecuting those who followed after Christ, because he was under the impression that they were breaking the commandments of God. You see, they were becoming lawless and turning away from what Moses had taught them. So he went about persecuting them. Yahushua had to stop his ass. He was on his way to persecute some more followers of Christ. And Yahushua himself had to stop him on that road and say, why are you persecuting me? It is hard to kick against the pricks. What does that mean, guys? What does that mean, it's hard to kick against the pricks? If you have some cattle and you need to drive those cattle to a location, you have what's called a cattle prod. A cattle prod in today's day has a little electric charge to it, and you poke the cattle that you want to move with it. You see, back in Christ's time, they used pricks. So when you prick the cattle to get him to move because he's stubborn and he doesn't want to move, he's hard-headed. You see, he's rebellious. He doesn't want to do it. So you have to prick him to get him to move. So then that means that Paul was that rebellious, hard-headed cattle that didn't want to move. Even though he was being prodded to, he was being pricked to. So if the original location he was being a commandment keeper, persecuting those who were not keeping the commandments, so he had much zeal, he's going around persecuting. You see how easy this is to understand? So while he's doing that, that means that's the location that Christ is pricking him out of. He's pushing him out of that over-righteous way of being zealous, misdirected. So then that means today, little flock, that there are many people who have zeal after God, but don't have knowledge. You see there? And I'm the pricking them. So then what happens, what did Yahushua say, happens when you prick that cattle? They kick against it. So then, if I'm the one with the cattle prod in my hand, and I'm prodding people that say they know God, people that say they know the truth and know Christ, if I'm prodding you and you're kicking against it, then what does that mean? You have zeal, but it's misdirected zeal. And you're kicking against the prick. Now, my next question is, what is the prick? What is the cattle prod that you're kicking against? What am I trying to move you into? Well, what did Christ say? You're persecuting me, Paul. Christ said, I and the Father are one. I have come to make the Father known. John, who was in the bosom of Christ, which means he was his greatest disciple, said, God is love. So that means Yahushua revealed to John that God was love. You see that there? So then the prick that they're kicking against is love. Now let's see if that's what it is. It's brotherly love is what they kick against. You see that? While saying they're keeping the commandments of God. Do you understand? Like Paul did. You understand that? So now, if you're being pricked, then that means that there's a double mind going on in you. You know you should go another way, but your carnality won't allow you to. Can't be love. It can't be. What do you guys say the cornerstone is for building something? I say it's love. What do you say it is? Building anything. If you want to build something, you must use love as the cornerstone. Why do I say that, little flock? Because if you have not love, then you have not anything, and you are nothing. So if you ain't nothing, then can you do something? And God is love. So you're telling me you can have God without love? How? That's the prick. See? I keep on pricking you guys with it, and some of y'all keep kicking against it because you can't hear it, because you have not been converted yet. But when you are converted, remember and be faithful and strengthen your brothers. When you are, you see? Because I have no doubt that you will be. If you're here and you're kicking against what I'm saying, but yet you have a zeal of God, then eventually that prick is going to prick you and force you, just like it did with Saul. I told you who does the name changing. Yahusha showed y'all that. You're not going to be called Peter. You're not going to be called Simon, but Peter. I call you two, James and John. I call y'all the sons of thunder. Your name should not be called Abram anymore. It should be called Abraham. I don't call you Jacob anymore. I call you Israel now. So then it was the same one that said, I don't call you Saul anymore. I call you Paul, because you've been converted. Same thing with me. And that's why I asked you guys the question, what was my Saul name? And y'all don't know it. See? So then that proves that there's another man here. The grandson of right thought is here now. You see that there? Yesaiah the branch. That's the man you see standing here talking to you now. Because I've been converted into my truth. Just like Paul did. What he became is what he always desired to be. He said that to you guys. The things that I did, even though they were wrong, I did them ignorantly. So that means that a lot of people right now will hear me and they will cast it away and kick against me ignorantly. You see? And I'm going to tell you what their ignorance is, because it's the same ignorance that Paul had. And then we're going to read and prove it to you guys so that you don't have any discrepancy about what I'm saying to you all today. They're ignorant of a simple fact. And what is it? They believe that when you are converted and you teach how to fulfill the law, they think what they're hearing, you see, is that you're saying, don't keep no commandments. That's what they hear. Don't keep the commandments. Why do you think Paul killed them? Why do you think Saul was killing them for teaching that? Because he thought they were saying, don't keep God's commandments. Don't. Well, Yahusha, the one who they were sent from, said that. He said, I have not come to destroy. We're going to read all of this, by the way. It's better that we read it so that you can see it for yourself. You see that there? So you don't think I'm trying to deceive you or trick you by saying love fulfills the law. I'm not destroying nothing. I am not coming here telling you guys to start stealing. I am not telling you to covet. I'm not telling you to commit adultery. What I am telling you is that if you are loving, then you will not do those things, and then you will fulfill what you've been trying to fulfill your whole life. You will truly do it if you set love as the cornerstone. But if you set anything else as the cornerstone of your life, then you ain't nothing. Am I saying that, or is that what the Bible says it? Okay, then. You see? So stop kicking against the prick of love. I asked you guys what the cornerstone is when you build something. What do you say it is? Now, if you admit out of your own mouth that it's love, because if you say it's not love, then you just don't know the truth. Because God is love. So then, if it's love, then how come the scripture says the cornerstone that was rejected by the builders? I told you if you build something, you need to have something in it in order for it to sustain itself. That ingredient, that something in it is love. If you don't have love, you have nothing. So then that's the cornerstone that has been rejected by the builders. Do you see how come when I come with that, that's why I'm rejected? Can't you see? It's because of love. That's why I'm hated. It's because of love that I'm hated. See? It's not because I did anything, or I was righteous, or I was so good, or I got on your nerves, or I did anything. It's love. love compel me to say and do everything that I'm doing and saying. You see, because I know that if I don't do what I do with love, then I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything. In other words, I have done it in vain. Do you see that today? I've done it in vain. I have done it in ignorance. That's what Paul said he was doing. So the people that are double-minded still, is it love? Okay, maybe it's not. Maybe it's God mean keep my commandments. This is what he mean, keep my commandments. Don't covet, don't steal. See what I'm saying? So no, I'm not here to abolish that, brother. When I shake my head and do that, you guys think I'm saying, see, he's saying he's saying covet. He's saying steal. He's saying what I'm saying is wrong. I'm not. What I'm saying is you need to know how to fulfill those things. And there is only one way to fulfill it. Now, I'm going to prove it to everybody and show it to everybody today so that everybody who sees this will have to admit that that's how you fulfill it. Now, if that's how you fulfill it, and when Christ came, he said that he came to fulfill it, then what do you think he did? He must have loved. What did he say that woman did that anointed his feet? She loved much, so her sins are forgiven her, because love covers a multitude of sin. Y'all can't hear how powerful love is? Then you're kicking against that prick. You're kicking against the cornerstone. Your whole life gonna fall apart. Your whole life's gonna fall apart because you're blinded. Saul taught us all this. He thought he could see. The scripture says they thinking that they were seeing were blind. They thinking they could hear were dull. They could not hear shit. Paul used to be one of them. And so were we before we were converted into his marvelous light of truth. That love conquer everything. So then when I just put love in, what do you think the Bible means when it says that some of the Gentiles were a law all unto themselves? What does that mean, little flock? Even though they had not heard the Mosaic law, they were doing things of the law out of nature. So why? Because people understood that it wasn't right to take something that didn't belong to you, even though they weren't having to be told that and shown that on a damn stone to know it. The fact that you have to be shown it on a stone to know it shows how the state of you, not God, it shows your state. Y'all don't know how raising children works? It's so strange to see it. What do I mean when I say that? This is what I mean. When you have a child and that child is ignorant, he's just growing. He doesn't know how to talk yet. He don't know even how to walk. You have to train him up in everything that he's doing. Walking, talking, using the potty, all kinds of stuff. Well, along the way, in other words, when your child is born, he comes out the womb and he's breastfeeding on his mother, you do not take that child, snatch it from his mother and say, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't covet. You don't do that. Do you? Because you don't need to do it. You only add those words that you're going to tell him. Don't covet, don't steal, don't kill, don't commit adultery. You only are going to add that to your words that you give him when he does the shit. It was added because of transgressions. So let me give you an example of what that means. Your child is going along and he's just a toddler and there's another kid playing and they're playing. One kid has a toy, a little Ninja Turtle. And he playing with the Raphael Ninja Turtle with the red on, right? And your kid got the Michelangelo Ninja Turtle with the nunchucks, right? So they're playing. But your kid looks at the other kid's Raphael, you see, and he goes, damn, I want that. He's coveting right there. So you're sitting there as the parent, sitting off to the side, just watching this. You can see your child coveting. He has not moved. He's just looking. So now you're about to teach your child a new lesson. You know it's coming. So he gets up and walks over to the other kid, snatches the Raphael out of his hands, and he runs off with it. And the other kid starts to cry. So then, do you see about the other kid crying? Do you see how what your son did caused the other kid hurt? Or he worked ill to his neighbor? Does love work ill to his neighbor? So then, honestly, your son didn't love his brother. That's actually what he did. But there will be people who say, well, he coveted, see? He stole, see? So then you're going to have to tell your child that now, son, you don't take what doesn't belong to you. In other words, do not steal. You don't, see? Don't take what doesn't belong to you, son. You added that to his life now because of his transgression. Because you never said it when he was innocent and didn't know any better. You didn't tell him. You didn't until he fucked up. That's when you had to correct him. See, that's what the law was. That's what the law was. Do you understand it? So then now your child gets a little older and he may ask you and say, hey, Dad, why is it wrong for me to want something that my brother has? Why is that wrong? That's when you give him the Christ teaching, that Moses who showed him his sin. That's what Paul was telling you guys. I didn't know sin until I heard the law. Hey, I'm about to grab something as a kid, as an ignorant kid. My dad goes, don't steal that. Oh, I was stealing. Do you see the ignorance? I was stealing? Yes, that's Moses. Don't steal that. That's Moses. And then when you ask Moses, well, why Moses? Why can't I just covet? Why I can't commit adultery? Why not? Then he's going to say, go to Christ. Christ will tell you. And then when you go to Christ, Christ's going to say, because that's not loving your neighbor as yourself, is it? You reap what you sow. You see that there? So do unto others as you would have them do unto you, my son. See the higher teachings? Even though they're the same? So then he's fulfilling the old with the new teaching. Y'all, you see it? Okay, so now your child gets a little older. He's learned a couple of things. Now he learned about stealing and coveting. When you told him, don't steal that from that kid. Don't take his Raphael. You got a Michelangelo. Why yours ain't sufficient? So you've taught him that lesson. Now let's say he grows up a little more. He starts to get attracted to girls, see? So now there's some new lessons that got to come. You understand that? So now he sees one of his friends that get a girlfriend, and this girl is beautiful to him. So he's coveting and lusting after his friend's girlfriend. So one day he happens to see this girl when her boyfriend isn't around, and he starts to try to holler at her and get up on her. You see that there? Now, when his friend sees him smooching all on the girl, trying to rub all on her and get next to her, he comes over there and punches your son's lights out. Don't commit adultery. That's the punching his lights out. Now he comes home, he goes, Dad, what the hell? Son, love works no ill to his neighbor. You see how everything that causes you pain is when you offend your brother? When you're not loving him? When you get your girlfriend, do you want your brother to lust after your girl when you're gone? His answer will be no. So then do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Whose teaching is that? Christ. Do you see how it took you to go through Moses, the schoolmaster, to reveal your sin to you? And then once your sin is revealed to you, you need to be washed from it. Yahusha does that with love. You are now clean by the word that I have spoken unto you. What word? That you love one another, nigga. You see what I'm trying to explain to you? I told you guys who I'm talking to. It's like y'all can't hear it all. Y'all can't hear the full matter. I know there's a lot of words here, but that's what people that are in my position do. They exhort. You see? Exhortation with many words. You'll read that in the Bible. I know who I'm speaking to. I know who I'm sent to. Do you understand? I'm sent to those who are converted already. So don't expect me to speak to the people who are not converted yet. I talk to them differently than the little flock. The little flock are those who are already converted or who are being prepared for their conversion. That's who I'm talking to. That's it. Do you understand that? There are preachers for those who are not converted. They have many preachers. They do. They have many. But my preaching is for those who have seen their sin and are ready to be converted from it. That's it. They have seen it. So the only way you can have seen it is Moses told it to you. Yeah, when you stole, that was wrong. Yep, when you coveted, that was wrong. Yep, like Paul said, I had not known sin unless the law had told me. In other words, I didn't know what was wrong until I was told not to do it. Then I knew what was wrong. But I didn't know why not to. What was my incentive to not do it? See there? Love is the incentive. That is what the motivating force is. It is the cornerstone of every action. So then love will not allow you to covet. This is what I'm trying to get you guys to hear. Love fulfills the law. So therefore, love doesn't work any ill to his neighbor. So then what would I teach him? That coveting hurts his neighbor? Does coveting work ill to his neighbor? Does committing adultery with your friend's wife, does that cause ill to your neighbor? Is that working ill? If you steal your neighbor's goods, is that working ill to your neighbor? Well, love doesn't do any of that. So then why would I sit up here and tell you all day about what working ill is instead of how to fix the ill that you've done? Because there's only one way to fix the ill that you've done, because we've all done ill to our neighbors. There's only one way to correct it. I've already been telling you guys how to do it. It's love. Love covers the ill that you've done. That's the only thing that does. It covers a whole lot of the ill that you've done too. Love covers a multitude of sin. How do we know who the children of God are? How do we know? What is the evident token of who the actual children of God are? How will we know? It wouldn't happen to be because they love one another. So then it must be the cornerstone, guys. If don't nobody know who you is, if you don't have love, then you ain't nobody, like I've been telling you. But once you love, then now you're known. Now you see your face clearly in that mirror instead of darkly. Why can't I achieve what I'm trying to achieve? You see? Because you don't know God the Father yet. You see it? You don't know him yet. Because once you know love, then you know that you know how to not work ill anymore. So then you know how to fulfill. You see that, little flock? Now, we're going to get into a few scriptures real quick here to validate everything that I've said to you guys. So you don't have to say, well, that's you saying that and you making some stuff up and you're off, man. You're telling people not to keep the commandments, man. You're telling, when have I ever said that? I have a video right now talking about the world is going to suffer greatly. And then you guys are going to say, well, why are we suffering? And then I yelled, keep the commandments. So then what the hell are you talking about? I'm saying don't keep the commandments. What are you saying? I'm teaching you how to keep them. I'm teaching you how to fulfill them. You see? Let's get into it, guys. Go to the book of Acts, chapter 21. Acts chapter 21, we'll start at verse 18. Okay? Acts chapter 21, verse 18. And it says, and the day following, Paul went in with us. Sorry, y'all, my screen is a little messed up here, so I'm cracking. Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present. So did y'all get that there? Like I said, the screen is a little messed up, so y'all have to bear with me here when I'm reading. Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present. So now, all the elders means elders of the church. So these are trusted men that know Yahushua's teachings and know what's right and what's not right. That's why they're the elders of the church. Paul standing there with them. You see? The one that used to persecute men just like them. We're going to see why. Because Paul is about to experience the same thing that he had done. Because you reap what you sow. You see? And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things love had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. So he had been out there preaching. And he said, I've seen many wonderful things done. Abba has done many wonderful things through the Gentiles by the preaching that I've given them. You hear that there, little flock? Now, remember I told you about Yahushua's day. Who was having beef with Yahushua? That would be the so-called church, the leaders, the high priests, the elders, the scribes, the Pharisees. You see that? They're the ones that had the problem with Yahushua and told him he was blaspheming and saying wrong things and breaking the commandments of God. Do you see what I mean, guys? So if they thought that about Christ, then when you start talking, then they may start thinking that about you. Well, Paul proved it, that they started to thinking about him. Let's continue. And when they heard it, so when the elders heard what Paul had told them about, they glorified the Lord and said unto him, you see us, brother. Watch this here. So they were happy about it. They said, man, it's amazing, man. All praise to the Most High. See? And they said, you see us, brother. See how they're calling him brother? Watch this. How many thousands of Jews there are which believe. Do you see how many Jews are? See how he says Gentiles and then they say Jews? So they say God is doing this simultaneously with the Gentiles and the Jews. Look how many thousands of Jews believe. But the Jews were coming out of over righteousness. The Gentiles are coming out of over wickedness. Like I told you, be not over righteous or over wicked. That's why Christ makes peace between the two men, making of them one new flesh. You see? But these are the two men, the over wicked and the over righteous, the Gentile and the Jew. You see, Paul came from the Jew side, which was over righteous. You see what I'm trying to say? So now he says, yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that came from the over righteous side. Watch, I'm going to prove it to you that they are. He says there's thousands from the over righteous side that believe the truth. Watch what he adds. Watch what he adds. You see his brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all what, little flock? Zealous about what, little flock? Of the law. So what did Paul say? I bear witness that there's a zealousness in Israel, but not after knowledge. So what did they just say, the elders there? Yep, there's a whole lot of Jews that believe, but they are zealous of the law. Okay? You see what I'm saying there, little flock? And they are informed of thee. So what does that mean? These same guys that are zealous of the law were told about Paul. See, they are informed of thee, that thou teachest, listen, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses. Stop right there before we continue. So let me ask you guys, what were the Jews accusing Paul of doing? Teaching the Jews that were among the Gentiles to come out and to forsake Moses. Can you hear it or can you not hear it, guys? Can you hear it or can you not hear it, guys? Let's continue. If you guys don't understand that one, let's continue. To forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise, in other words, break the law, and circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. See, forsake Moses. Turn away from Moses. Turn away from the commandments. Like I said, when people hear these messages from me, they're going to say, you're telling us to screw Moses and forget the commandments. And you're telling us not to keep the commandments. Isn't that what they thought about Paul? What do you think about Paul? Do you think that Paul is telling you to forsake Moses? Is that what you think? Peter said, which is one of the elders that are sitting there, he said that people wrestle with Paul's writings to their own destruction because they're unstable, because they're double-minded. They can't decide whether it's love or it's not, or it's the old way. They can't decide which one is right. So they just jump back and forth. You got to be hot or cold. You got to decide. So I'm hot for love. Plain and simple. I'm totally hot for love. Aren't I proving it? Aren't I? Because I won't move off of it. I will not leave it. It is the cornerstone for every project. You see, the branch shall grow up out of its place, and he shall build the temple. He needs the cornerstone in order to build it. I told you, he's the one that brings the cornerstone out, saying grace unto it, because that's what I was told in the 40. When I was called out and elected from the world to be converted, to come back and give you this message. It's so obvious and easy to be understood. All right, so they said he's teaching against Moses. He's teaching against circumcision. He's teaching against the customs of the law. Forsake Moses. That's what they heard about him. You see? What is it therefore? The multitude must needs come together. So now that we're going to be in Jerusalem, the Jews are going to come together there. And they have heard about you, Paul. They ain't sure about you. You see? For they will hear that thou art come. Hear that, little flock? They will hear that you're there. Do therefore this, that we say to thee. Stop. So they're giving him counsel and advice to do something, Because the people are looking for Paul because they have heard these things about him and they're ready to kill and beat. Aren't they? Like I told you, over righteous people get. I told you. I'm proving it to you. They had just heard some shit. Oh, I heard he said that. Oh, we're going to go get his ass. See? Yeah, that's brotherly love there. That's right. Yep, that's brotherly love, just like Paul was doing. Hey, what you say? Christ, what? Kill him. Let's kill him. Let's kill him. He held the coats of the men that stoned Stephen. He held the coats of the men who stoned Stephen. Why'd they stone Stephen? Did Stephen say something wrong? Did Stephen lie? Did Stephen blaspheme? What does the Bible say? His face was as the face of an angel. He was staring steadfastly into heaven. So what are you guys talking about? What are you talking about? Who stoned Stephen? Would it happen to be the overrighteous Jews again, who do this killing and killing and killing and killing and blood and blood and blood and blood? What did Zipporah call Moses? No, y'all don't know why I did that. That's because that's the foot sweep I just gave you. What did Zipporah call Moses? You are a bloody man. Why? Because he circumcised his son. You are a bloody man. Do you hear it today? You are a bloody man. Blood and blood and blood and guts and killing and slashing and cutting and stealing and killing and killing. Good gracious. How much blood does it take? Well, as long as you guys aren't loving, blood got to keep flowing. See? All right, then, watch this. So do this what we say unto thee. Listen to our advice. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. A Nazarite vow, that is, you see. Nazar means truth. So a vow to speak truth, you see. Take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. So we know it's about to be a whole bunch of Jews that are come here looking to persecute you, Paul. So then do some customs that they said you don't do. Keep some customs so that they can see you do it and they can say, oh, never mind. We thought he was telling us to forsake these old customs. He's keeping the customs. So there's no reason for us to hate him. That's what the elders are saying. You see there? So that whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly and keepest the law. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Do you hear what the discrepancy is? They don't think that Paul keeps the law. Matter of fact, they think he rejects the law. Don't you hear it? So then do these things to prove to them that you don't, that they're wrong, that what they heard was error. Do these specific things. You see that there, little flock? All right. As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded. So he's talking about the Gentiles that are now converted. See, we have concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. Simple as that. They wrote a letter saying that. It's written in there too, when they did that. Because they were arguing about circumcision. I told you, why did Zipporah call Moses a bloody man? Because he circumcised the son. That's why. It's the same discrepancy that the people had now when they were like, hey, should we circumcise our kids or should we not? Circumcision availeth nothing. Oh, you're telling me not to keep the Mosaic law then? Do you hear it? Don't you see how easy it is to do this? Well, you're telling me not to keep the Mosaic law. Ay, 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 ay. Do you see? True circumcision is that of the heart, brother. I'm a spiritual man now. I don't hear carnal things. You still hear foreskin. You think of your penis. I think of my heart when I hear foreskin. Is it covered or is it tender and exposed? That's what I think of. Now, what do you think benefits you the most? Whether your head of your penis is exposed or whether your tender heart is? What do you think God's more interested in? So I'm going to dominate you carnal-minded people. That's the point. That's what makes you angry and want to kill me. You don't like that you're wrong being exposed for it. You don't like that. Nobody does. I'll tell you that right now. Nobody does. That's why people rage and get angry and run at you and stop their ears and say, we can't listen to you anymore. Because what you're saying pricking my heart. That's why they killed Stephen. They were pricked to their heart. See? Because God's word exposes the intent of your damn heart. That's what it do. See it? It's about the heart. What's the new covenant written on? The old one was written on stone. What's the new one written on? Can't fuck around with the truth, no. Can't fuck around with the truth, no. Why am I dancing and singing? Because love rejoices in the truth. That's why. What do you guys rejoice in? Lies? So he said, continuing, then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself, so did he do that, Vice? Yeah. With them, entered into the temple to signify, to make it clear, the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them. And when the 7 days were almost ended, so they've been doing this for 7 days, they're just watching Paul to see, what the hell is he doing? Is he keeping Torah? Is he breaking it? What's going on here, man? He looks like he's keeping the custom. What the heck? You see? So when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews, see that there? Which were of Asia, when they saw him in the temple. So there were some Jews out of Asia that saw him. So that means some over-righteous people happened to see Paul. See? When they saw him in the temple, they stirred up all the people and laid hands on him. They stirred up the people. Who did? The Jews did. Who stirred up the people against Yahusha? The Jews did. Crying out, men of Israel. See? Jews. Men of Israel, help. You hear that there, right there. Help us to fight this man, men of Israel. Come and come against him. You see it? Now, this is the man. Let's see what they're going to accuse him of. This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people. So first he's telling, so they're accusing him and saying, he's teaching that God's people ain't even important anymore. He addressed that. Everything they accuse him of, he addressed in his letters, and they still just can't hear it because they wrestle to their own destruction. The Bible already says that. So they said he's teaching against the people. Okay, now let's see what Paul says. According to this accusal, he's teaching against the people, which is Israel. That's why they said, men of Israel, stop this nigga. He's teaching out against us, saying we ain't important no more. Okay, there is neither Jew nor Gentile. See when the Jews hear shit like that? See? There is neither Jew nor Gentile. There is neither bond nor free, male nor female, for we are all one. What the fuck? We God's people. It say right there, we are set above all nations upon the face of this earth. What the hell you mean? There ain't no difference. That kind of attitude is not the attitude of brotherly love, is it? Can you understand me? The early church had all things in common, and they were all together with one accord. And they divvied out the goods as every man had need, because they were all of one heart and one mind. So then, just like Paul said was true. It's like y'all forget, when y'all think about the 12 apostles, how come y'all forget about that Canaanite that was sitting there? Did y'all forget that one of them was called the Canaanite? And that wasn't the one that betrayed him. Y'all can't hear this message today. Can you hear this message today? All right. He teaches men everywhere against the people. So that's one. And the law. See? Don't keep no law. Forsake Moses. He teaches people to do that. See? And the place, see, Jerusalem, he teaches against all of our heritage, guys. He's trying to tear it down and break it down. He's wicked. He's telling you to be lawless. He's telling you not to keep Moses' commandments. See, just like people would say about me. 29, for they had seen before with him in the city Trophimus, an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple. So they saw Paul sitting in there with an Ephesian, which is a Gentile, sitting in the temple talking to him. And they supposed, which means they assumed, that Paul brought him in there. What kind of judgment goes off of assumptions? Do you see how the Jews judge? Off of outward appearance, off of how some shit look. And that's wrong. That's not what I would want from you. How when y'all realize that? It caused you to kill wrongfully. Have I not taught you all this? It causes you, when you're over righteous, it causes you to kill wrongfully. It causes you to condemn based off of poor judgment, like assumptions. You see somebody talking to a Gentile, oh, he must love Gentiles. So when you were just driving down the street and you happen to be at the gas station to get some gas, you pulled over. And then you saw a guy in another car pull up next to you and he said, hey. Now he's Chinese. You're a white man. He's Chinese. White people don't talk to Chinese. Let's just say that's how the world was. And this man goes, hey, do you know how to get to such and such and such and such? And then you simply direct him to his location. Oh, yeah, it's right over there, down there. Now, another white man comes by and sees you talking to that Chinese man for that couple of seconds. Hey, man, what are you doing? Don't you know we don't consort with those type? The man just asked me for some directions. I'm giving him some. No. You were driving with him. You came here and you came in. He came in your car with you. You guys are going on a journey together, I suppose. So you're going to judge me based off of a supposition? Damn. That's piss poor judgment. What did Yahushua say about you Jews? Judge righteously. You judge after the outer. Did he say that? Did he say that? You judge outward. What did God tell about men back in the Old Testament? In Samuel. God don't judge as man judges. For man judges the outward appearance, but Abba judges the heart and the reins. So what the hell y'all talking about again? I told you about your penis or your heart showing what you think. Since God judging your heart, what you think he concerned with? The circumcision of your penis? Or as he said, the circumcision of the heart. And a true Jew is one inwardly. But as you can see, they said he teaches against the people, the law, and this place. You see that? And they brought Paul, and the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut. You can continue to read the rest if you want to, but I think you guys are starting to get the point here, aren't you? What was their accusal of Paul there? He taught against the people of Israel. He taught against the place, Jerusalem, and that he taught against the law of Moses. That was their accusations against him, and he had done none of that. If he had, then how come the elders didn't condemn him and kick him out of the brotherhood? They called him brother. They called him the beloved. They say he praised God for what he had told them. They were Jews, so how come they were so different than those other ones? Because all of Israel is not Israel. Who said that? You might be surprised to find out. You might be surprised to find out. You see that there? All right. Let's continue here. Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3. We'll start at verse 29 here. All right. Is he the God of the Jews only? Who's talking? It's Paul. You see why the Jews got offended? He teaches against the people. Is God the God of the Jews only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, the Gentiles also. See? Seeing it is one God which shall justify the circumcision by faith. Circumcision means the over righteous. By faith. And the uncircumcision, which means the over wicked or the unclean, like David and Goliath. David said, you unclean Philistine. Was David a Jew? Yes, he was. He was a true Jew, a Jew of the heart. That's why he was elevated to king status. Do you understand? Because Abba told you he chose that Jew because of his heart. Oh my gosh. Don't know if you guys can hear it or not. Did David break the commandments of God? Well, let's see. He murdered. He committed adultery. He coveted. Do I have to continue with me? Do I have to continue with thee? I said me. Do I have to continue with thee? Do I have to continue with thee for you to understand this? Do I? Or can you hear it? He murdered. He ate the showbread. He coveted. He broke all that shit. But Abba still selected him because of his heart. That's why he's called beloved, because it's about love. If we love, then we are called the children of God. So then what did he call David? This is my only begotten. This day have I made thee my son. See there, what did he say about Yahushua, who was also a Jew of the heart? What did he say about him? This is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Does it change? Does it change? Does it change? Does it change? So then if Abba chose Yahushua, and then what did Yahushua tell us to do? To love. Did they accuse him of the same things? Breaking the commandments, breaking the law? Yes, he did. That's why he referenced David and said, did you not read what David did when he did what was not lawful? And he ate the showbread? Because why did he do it? So that he could preserve the life of his friends. He gave up his life, which means he could have died for doing that. Well, he gave his life up for the purpose of feeding his men. So the greater purpose, the intent of his heart prevailed over what you would call sin. Did Moses kill? Then how come God chose him? Did Moses murder? It was Moses the one that said, don't murder, thou shalt not kill. Did he kill a man? Then why did God choose him? It's because why he did it. It was the intention of his heart, because that's what God judges. Tell me he don't. God told you he do. But people that say it's some outward shit, when they start judging people, then they don't do what God does. They don't. God says men judge outward appearance. So when men do that, he's showing you the discrepancy right there. See that? All right, now watch this, verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Hey man, he's teaching me against the law. Do we make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. We establish it. So then what does that mean? That means when your child, the same child who took the Ninja Turtle from his friend, that you had to correct and say, hey, don't steal. Okay, he grows up. Now that he's an adult, his commandment that he lives by is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because he's learned Christ now. So now when he goes forth, he establishes that those things that he had did that were told him that were wrong, he establishes that they were indeed wrong. So now I love so that I never do those wrong things again. If I do what I want done to me, then I'm going to love. Because the scripture says a man love and cherishes himself. So if a man love and cherishes himself, which means when a circumstance comes, he looks for the best opportunity for him to survive and have the best thriving opportunity for himself. That's what he naturally does. How come you don't do it for your brother? Because you have not learned Christ. See? There's a scripture for that. That says that exact thing. You have not yet learned Christ. See? All right. Let's go to Matthew real quick. Well, let's get Romans 13, and then we'll go to Matthew, and we'll finish there. I know it's windy, y'all. My bad. Romans chapter 13, we're going to start at verse 8. Oh, no man anything but to what? To love one another. For he that loveth another, so a man that loves another, what has he done? Hath fulfilled the law. So how do I fulfill the law? By loving others. I told you, how do I prove I love God? By loving my brother. Because that's what he wants me to do. Just like he's my father. What would my father, if you and I were brothers, you who listen to this message right now, If you and I were twin brothers and we had the same father, what would our father teach us to do? To hate each other? Do you think he'd say that? Do you think he'd ever tell us that? Or do you think he would often remind us to love one another and to treat each other the way we want to be treated and to do good to one another? What do you think he'd tell us? So then what does our Heavenly Father tell us to do? To love one another. Now, if my father wanted me to love my brother, how do I prove I love God? By doing what he told me to do. That's how. See? To keep his commandment, to love my neighbor. Because if I love my neighbor, I fulfill the law. I don't owe him anything else but to love him. That's all I owe. So how come I don't want to pay it? Because I reject the cornerstone. That's why. That's simple, y'all. It's really that simple. Watch this. Let's continue and let's really dig this dagger down into the heart of man. Let's do it. For this, thou shalt not commit adultery. Is that one of the 10 commandments? Is it? Your answer is yes, it is. That's one of the 10 commandments. So watch. If somebody says, keep the 10 commandments, keep the 10 commandments. Okay, cool. Cool. Just like Yahushua said about the man when he said, I have kept all the commandments. Cool. But one thing you lack. One thing you lack. You don't love your neighbor as yourself. Let me prove you don't. Take your goods and give it to the poor and come and follow me. I can't do that. So then you don't love your neighbors. You don't love your neighbors. Isn't it obvious, little flock? So thou shalt not commit adultery. Is that one of the 10 commandments? Yes. Thou shalt not kill. Is that one of the 10 commandments? Yes. Thou shalt not steal. Is that one of the 10 commandments? Yes. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Is that one of the 10 commandments? Yes. Thou shalt not covet. Is that one of the 10 commandments? Yes. Now, do you have any other commandments that you say I should keep? Okay, well, let me continue to read this verse. And if there be any other commandment, so y'all say keep the commandments. So if there are any commandments, any of them, it is briefly comprehended. What does comprehend mean, nigga? It means understood. So anything that's written in the law of Moses can easily be understood by doing what? Let's see. Is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Every commandment can be comprehended if a nigga told you to love your neighbor as yourself. So what should I tell you today? So what should I tell you today? This is zeal in righteousness, what you see before you today. You see that? So we were listing off the 10 commandments that people keep talking about. What it said is briefly understood. The 10 commandments and any other commandment that's been given is briefly understood, which means very quickly and short to understand. It ain't hard. It can simply be understood in this saying, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Now let's continue to read the next verse. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, this is the conclusion of the matter. That's what therefore means. Love is the fulfilling of the law. Guys, why do you kick against this prick I'm poking you with right here? Because look, any of you who say, keep this commandment, keep that commandment, do this on this day, do that on that day, wear this, eat like this, eat like that. Did you ever mention love? No. So then what the fuck should I do? Listen to you or not? What do you say? I want to briefly comprehend the commandments. How can I if you didn't tell me to love, nigga? How? But you hate the one telling you to love because you don't like being pricked, nigga. Well, stay rebellious then. Stay rebellious.